Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Streamed and Screamed, an entertainment podcast about movies and TV from Lee Enterprises. I'm Terry Lipschutz, managing editor of the National Newsroom at Lee, and co-host the program with Bruce Miller, a longtime entertainment reporter. And we're done with the Oscars. We won't even speak of it anymore. But we're back to TV, and there's so much going on right now.
And around this time that this airs, you should see The Comeback. And The Comeback is Lisa Kudrow's series where she plays Valerie Cherish, who has had this kind of mediocre career, but she did win an Emmy. Come on, she won an Emmy. And she's got the Emmy in her living room, and it's like on a pedestal. And you go, yep, I'd do it. But she's working on a series that involves AI. And of course, this does not go over well at all with anybody who knows. So it has to be on the down low. Nobody can say anything about it. But because she's so social media oriented, she has a podcast because everybody needs a podcast. And they screw up. And I'm just sharing it. So if I hope that HBO does not get after me for saying this, but it's my favorite line of the year. She says, well, they're sloppy and unprofessional. That's the charm of a podcast. So here we are, sloppy and unprofessional.
We're sloppy and unprofessional. That makes us, an award-winning podcast. Which
it is. That's what we've got our kudos. We don't need to have the pedestal with the podcast trophy on it.
That's right. But it is kind of funny when you think about it, how TV shows have pivoted. Because even the basis of the Netflix show Nobody Wants This, that's based on a podcaster. I mean, who would have thunk?
Well, it's a new resource. It's like when comic books became a source for movies. That was just, their storyboarding, and all they had to do was just follow the storyboards, and they had a movie.
There you go.
And it runs in cycles. So we'll see what happens. But podcasters, Dear John was one that was a podcast, and then became a pretty well-respected limited series. And there are others like that. All those things that involve a bad husband and a battered wife seem to end up on a TV movie. So that's kind of interesting. We also put the button on Love Story, the John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bessette.
Right.
I don't even know how she pronounces it because it's been so long. Their love story. And people have been complaining about that thing, that it isn't truthful.
Yeah.
Daryl Hannah came out of the woodwork and said, oh my God, what is this? You're not even asking me anything. But that's Ryan Murphy does that with those true stories. He never asked any of the people involved in the Versace killing. He never asked anybody. Well, he did have...
was it the Monica Lewinsky?
Monica, sorry.
Yeah.
It just blanked because he does so many of these. He had Monica Lewinsky's participation in it, but then he didn't ask anybody else for that, or at least that I know of. So it varies. And with this one, I thought it was respectful. I thought, it didn't make them look like anything we hadn't already read about in the tabloids. Yeah, they devised what the scenes might have been like, but I thought it was respectful. And I got a chance to talk to one of the key figures in that. Calvin Klein is portrayed as Carolyn's boss. And he has a set of rules that I find kind of interesting. Is like, you can't have roses in the office because it ruins the aesthetic. So he has to have certain other things. Like you can have orchids, but you can't have... It's weird. And then she was apparently a VIP whisperer, so she has to kind of chat up the people who are famous, like John F. Kennedy Jr. Right. And so that's how they met. And Calvin felt like he was a mentor to her and kind of was responsible. And then if you notice in one of the episodes, she kind of moves on, but doesn't say to him really that, this is it. And then she does tell him this at a final meeting as she's clearing out the desk and everything, that, but she goes to one of his proteges to do her wedding gown. And I think Calvin thought he was going to do it. But anyway, I got to talk to Alessandro Nivola, who plays Calvin Klein. And you will know him because he was in The Brutalist last year, but he also is known as the dad to Sam Nivola, who was in The White Lotus, one of his two sons. He wasn't Patrick Schwarzenegger. He was the other one.
Right. He played Lachlan, right?
Right.
Yes.
And he comes up in the interview. So if you will, if we can just run that, you'll get a chance to hear what he has to say about Calvin Klein and what it's like for his son. Have you met Calvin Klein? Are you friends with Calvin Klein, or how did you prepare for this? I guess.
No, I've never met him. I was, the closest encounter I've had with him was the day before I was going to start shooting this. I was sitting in Bar Petey in Manhattan, and I was sitting with a friend in a restaurant, and he asked me, you know, what's your next project or whatever, and I said, oh, well, it's funny you asked. Tomorrow morning I start playing Calvin Klein in this Ryan Murphy show, and as I said the name Calvin Klein, this big black SUV pulled up on the side of the road, and out he got with his boyfriend, walked right into the restaurant and sat down 3 tables over from us, and had lunch the whole same time that I was. And I didn't go over and say anything because I just didn't want to bother him. And
did you watch him and see how his gestures were and what he did?
A little bit. I mean, I'd been watching so much of him in the couple months leading up to that day, because as part of my preparation, I just had watched hours and hours of him being interviewed and talk shows and behind the scenes at some of his fashion shows and all that kind of thing. So I just had such a sort of powerful reference point for the way that he moved and the way that he walked and the way that he spoke and the way that he used his hands and everything. And the second that, I mean, I wasn't even close enough to see his face. And the second he kind of stepped out of the car, I knew it was him just from the way that he stepped onto the sidewalk. So yeah.
You haven't heard what he thinks of your performance, right? I'm assuming no, and he wouldn't.
No, I mean, I do. I know people who know him and things, but I haven't really yet sort of been in touch with people and sort of tried to investigate how he's feeling about it. I hope he's enjoys it. It certainly, there was nothing about the show or my performance that I think was designed to, slander him. I think on the contrary, I was sort of at least trying to convey, a nuanced portrait of him, of a man who was both incredibly exacting and, a perfectionist and demanded a certain standard of excellence as part of his workplace and everything, but also had this kind of personal charm and a sort of flirtatious quality to him, and a sort of, that was all part of his creative genius. And so, hopefully that little cocktail is present and that he could enjoy it. People have asked me this kind of thing, like if somebody was playing you, how would you feel about it? And I've always said it would probably piss me off, but
things that you pick up on would not necessarily be the things that others would see. You know what I mean?
I mean, how can you look at anybody playing you and think anything but what the fuck? That's not me. I mean, I'm sure that's what I would feel if somebody was, doing some kind of impersonation of me or something. But maybe, I don't know, maybe he'll feel like there's something in it.
In the 6th episode, they have kind of a come to Calvin meeting where Carolyn talks to him about leaving, and he sees himself as her mentor, and in a way feels betrayed. In your life, have you had a mentor or somebody like that has shepherded you through the business or anything? Or
no, I don't have somebody who is still in my life that way.
Are you that for your children because they're in the business? Do you?
Just maybe just beginning to be like, my son Sam was really determined to kind of go it alone, and I think he was very sensitive to not wanting to feel that he was piggybacking off of mine or my wife's reputation to be forging his path. And so he was really kind of reluctant to lean on me for help or guidance or assistance. And now that he's sort of established himself after White Lotus and everything was such a big smash, and he's well on his way, some of that pressure may be removed because he's been kind of acknowledged to have talent in his own right, and so we talk more and more about like
Yeah, but what you
process
do
and
in this case.
preparation, and yeah, both on the sort of decision making side about sort of career choices, but also on like the creative side of the process and creating character and performance and the experience of being on set.
Calvin sees it almost as a betrayal of him. And if I were in that position with somebody and I saw them moving on and doing something better, I would feel proud. I would feel that I had been a part of that. How do you tap into that kind of, I've been wronged?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that the beauty of the scene is that there's so many different emotions running through at the simultaneously, and that the best scenes always have that when there's more than one thing going on. He just before the scene begins, he finds out that his kind of protege, Narciso Rodrigo, who was a designer that he had hired to work under him at Calvin Klein, has been asked to design her wedding dress, and so it's like a knife in his heart. And so coming into their sort of breakup scene, which is really what it is, because I think that they have a kind of platonic love there's a sort of platonic romance between him and Carolyn, and they're really, I think that may have been the case in real life. And so coming into that breakup scene, I think he's just like gut punched with the feeling of humiliation and betrayal, and it's just this, like, he's just seething with rage because he's somebody so unused to being in that position of vulnerability. And at the same time, I think he just loves her and cares so much about her that he can't help but want the best for her. And he can't bear to kind of see her off without some kind of, parting words of affection and advice and love. And so there's those two things are kind of running through the scene throughout it, and he's really battling with himself because he's heartbroken and angry and suffering, but also really wants the best for her.
You handle it so well. Quick question, I'll let you go. Do you wear Calvin Klein?
Well, I had been they dressed me for a premiere back in the 90s in this, maybe a little bit after this era. And I had kept that tuxedo, and it was down in my basement collecting dust. And when the premiere came along, I shook it out, brushed it off, popped it on, and it fit me like a glove. And
that's the best part, right? Still. Yeah. Well, hey, thank you so much, and congratulations on a great performance.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bruce, for that interview. Interesting to hear, not only about this show, but also the connections with his son and the White Lotus and all that. Which, not to go too far off topic here, but White Lotus season 4 is, I believe, deep in production now,
Right.
right? It sounds like maybe sometime in the next year we'll get a season 4. So
So does that
that's
mean Mike White is off Survivor now and we don't know about it?
I don't know.
Just a thought. Just a thought.
Yeah, so I don't know what the exact time frame is. I know they've announced some of the characters, or at least some of the cast rather, like Helena Bonham Carter's going to be coming back. Sandra Bernhardt's been cast. Steve Coogan apparently cast. So we'll get some. We'll see where this is going. I don't know who's coming back. Are they going to have
And the
crossovers or not?
Coolidge comes again, right?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's always been a favorite of mine. But in the present though, there's plenty of other shows you can watch, and there's one we couldn't salvage the interview. I know you had an interview, and part of the audio unfortunately just didn't work, and we can't bring you the interview. But I thought we could still talk about it because it's a show, and that's what we do.
That's in theaters now. It's called Reminders of
Ah,
Him, and it's written by Colleen Hoover. If you read her books, if you're one of those, It Ends With Us was another one of her books.
oh, okay.
Um, and she decided she was going to write the screenplay for Reminders of Him because she'd never done that before.
Mm,
And she said, if you make anything into a job for me, I don't want to do it. Like if I have to have this done in 2 weeks, no. But she was able to tackle this on her own time frame, and she enjoyed it. She said it's real fun to do a screenplay because you don't need all the things that you would need for a book. You can
right.
kind of condense it a bit. And what I found kind of interesting with talking with her is that her son, she's got, I think, 3 sons who are older, and they take a keen interest in what mom does. I would too if it meant that mom was bringing in the big bucks. But they ask to read her books before she publishes them, and she says they offer suggestions, but she decided to set up a screening for them, to bring their friends. So these are guys in their 20s, right? And she has a screening for them of Reminders of Us, or Reminders of Him rather.
Mm,
Um, and she said these are young men crying at the end of the movie. So she figured she did a good job if she got them to, open up a bit at the end of the movie. But it is fascinating because you think, where is this going? I don't know how, where does she come up with this? Well, the idea for many of her books and things started when she was a social worker. In her 20s and 30s, she was a social worker. And she said, I heard some really, you know, out there stories from people. And you think this happens? And she says it does. It does. Now she isn't betraying any kind of client social worker privilege or anything. She's not basing it on anybody that she worked with, but she hears enough of the stories about what their lives were like. And this one, it's a woman who spent 7 years in prison because she was found or seen as guilty for the death of her boyfriend who died in a crash. And she's pregnant. She has the baby. The baby ends up with the dead guy's parents. Don't ask me how this all works, but she said, yes, it's legal. So whatever they did the right thing, I guess. But it's a matter of her getting back together with her daughter, who she hasn't seen since she gave birth. And you go, this has got to happen. It's going to happen. And then you think, when? Come on, hurry up. Let's get this. Let's do this. And the end of the film, get ready. It's more than a three hanky ending. And the thing is, Lauren Graham, your Gilmore Girl,
mhm.
is the evil grandmother who doesn't want her to see this kid. And you think, no, she's a Gilmore Girl. She can't be that hard edged, but she's real good at it. She is. And then she has a change of heart as well. So, Reminders of Him, if you're into that, look for it. and she is hopeful that there will be another. It ends with us. There was another book in that
Oh, okay.
duality or whatever. I
Sure.
think it's called It Starts With Us.
Oh,
And that she's hoping there was a plan to have it done, but then there were lawsuits between Blake
Blake
Lively
Lively, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
and Justin
yeah.
Baldoni. And so she says, I don't know where it is. I would like to see it happen because I think it's a good story.
Wow, interesting. It's interesting that for an author, it's not. There's plenty of authors have done screenplays, but to kind of just decide to take the reins yourself and
Well, then you're
get it done.
not upset if they cut something out that you thought was important.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
But
So
I
we
think it's easier to write a screenplay and then have them write the book afterwards. Because
sure.
if you may remember the original Love Story, the one with Ryan O'Neal and
Oh,
Kelly McGraw,
right.
that was not a book first. It became a book after that, and they made a lot of money off it.
Yeah. Interesting. It's an interesting one, and again, we're gonna like go slightly off topic, but uh, there's a lot of discussion. I don't know if it's been totally greenlit yet, or if it is in production. But you remember the movie from the 1990s, Heat, right? The Michael Mann film with
Yeah.
Pacino and De Niro, right? So Michael Mann ended up co-writing a novel called Heat 2, and Heat 2 is supposedly going to come out in the next year or two as sort of like a prequel sequel to Heat.
So younger actors are cast in the roles.
Yeah, my understanding, it's one of these where I stumbled on some story about it in the last week or two, and I had remembered, it's like when I saw this, like, oh yeah, he did write that book, and I completely forgot about it. So I did order the paperback, and at some point it'll arrive, and I'll read it. Because that's one of those movies which I think it got mixed reviews. It was insanely long, right? It's one of those 3+
Look
hour
good
movies. It
visually.
looked really good. It was a little bit sluggish at times, but it's still one of my favorite movies. It's one of those movies where I can just throw it on and I'll just sit there and get sucked into it. I just love it, especially the bank shootout. Right. But it apparently there's a bit of a prequel aspect to it where the younger characters from the film are in it, but then it also picks up after the movie several years where they're going after one of the characters who kind of escaped the bank robbery. So it does fascinate me a lot, but obviously the actors from that film would either be much too old to play in it now, or also Val Kilmer of course died too, right? Yes, but yeah, no, so there's that kind of is in the background. I'm curious to see what happens to that.
Okay, so what have you been watching?
Me, I've been getting caught up on a lot of stuff. So, I'm still we're a little bit caught up on Paradise season 2. But we did finish Bridgerton, which my wife did make the comment, and I was kind of feeling the same way too. This was not as good of a season as the other ones. Like, it's fine. We're gonna keep
Right.
watching. I know the show's been picked up, I think, for 2 more
Wow.
seasons, so it's not like it's not going anywhere, right? We still got a bunch of kids to wet off here, but it felt a little. I want to say, what was it, 8 episodes total? I think the first 6 episodes were kind of all over the place, right? It's like it's up and down, whatever. I thought the final 2 were pretty strong, and I don't want to give away spoilers or anything like that, but I did feel like the season wrapped up nicely. Like there was a good ending to it. It does leave a lot of questions open with some of the characters. Lady Danbury, is she going to be back or not back next year? What's going on with Whistledown? That was kind of a
Right.
thing, because we learned the identity of Whistledown, and the community learned the identity of Whistledown, but she sort of reappears at the end, so there's a bit of a mystery there as to what's going on.
Did
So
anybody cough in the end?
cough? Not that
Like,
I know
I
of.
feel and then they'll be dead next year.
They'll be down. The plague is gonna whip through
Yeah.
London. No, nothing like that. But yeah, there was one of the characters did die, unfortunately. So I don't want to again reveal too much
Spoiler.
of that. But yeah, but we felt it was a fine season, not as good as the previous, but we'll still kind of come back for that. And then another show which it came out, I want to say in February, but I didn't get a chance to watch it. And it's a show which to me it's like eating a bag of M&Ms, right? Because bag of M&Ms is not that big. You kind of like gobble them up quickly and then they're gone. And that's what you get with Shoresy, right? We had the 5th season
Shoresy.
of
I
Shoresy.
love
I
Shoresy.
love Shoresy. It is such a good show. It's obviously, if you're not familiar with it, it's produced by Crave, which is a cable streaming network in Canada, and then it's also picked up by Hulu, and it follows a hockey team in a very small community in Canada, with the main character Shore, everyone calls him Shoresy. He's a bit foul mouthed, but he's got a good heart. And in this season,
Wasn't he going to leave?
yeah, well, he was kind of banged up pretty bad at the end of the last. Well, the last season was sort of in between winter. It was like a summer episode, a summer season. But he was getting up there in age and really couldn't skate anymore. So he kind of moves into coaching. So and the league, don't want to give away too many things here, but the league, the no show folded, but they still have to have a hockey thing, right? So what's going on? So this team from Europe, they call them the EU All Stars. It's all about, in Europe, if you follow hockey, like the European game, it's all about speed and finesse. Where in North America, like the NHL, it's about like banging into each other, into the boards, and it's a much more physical game. So Shoresy helps get a team together of all stars, and they're going to take on the EU team and basically turn it into a slugfest, right? It's a good. I loved it. It's one where I was crushing through 2 episodes a morning as I walked briskly on my treadmill. But as quickly as it came, it is gone, and we'll have to wait. It was picked up for a season 6, but they only do 6 episode seasons, and we got to wait a full year until it comes back again, which is of course terribly disappointing. But and it is a spinoff. I guess I'll make up for this because I never watched Letterkenny, which is the series. Like Shoresy is basically a spinoff of Letterkenny. That had about 12 seasons total, and I think I'm in season 4 of Letterkenny. So I'll just kind of keep watching that to keep me occupied until Shoresy comes back.
Okay. Do you know the players very well?
Yeah, for the most part. The
name
three
Jack ring a
gyms are.
bell?
What's that?
Jack. He's one of the players,
Jack.
and he's usually smarter than the other ones. He was a good dancer in the last season I watched, but
I can't remember.
he's one of the main boys, or well, now what do they be? 20.
Okay.
And he won an Emmy when he was a little kid in a PBS show called Odd Squad.
Oh, okay.
And he was, one of those kind of kid detectives. And the idea that his career kept on is like amazing. And he knows how to play hockey too. It's not like this is
Isaac Cragton. Is that?
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. You would if you see that kind of trajectory, it's fun to watch where he was and where he is now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think he has another film part too that's coming. So the kid gets work.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, there's another actor. Do you remember Jory Jordan? He's the kid that hosts the Sudbury Kids Sport Report. He's also has the upcoming return of Little House on the Prairie is going to be his thing. I don't recall when that's coming out or where, but some of these guys are coming. A bunch of the guys on the show were actually ex hockey players. A few of them played professionally.
those CBC, Canadian TV, CTV, all those kind of shows that finally make their way down to the United States
Mm-hmm.
have produced a lot of good stuff. Kim's Convenience,
Mm-hmm.
Simu Liu, who was in the Marvel films and is now on Broadway actually doing Old Mary, but he was in Barbie, and
Yeah.
he started out in one of these little sitcoms from Canada that ended up being a big thing for him. So
Right. Well, and you look at like Schitt's Creek. I mean, that's one
that was a little
a
thing
little
for
Canadian thing. Yeah. Exactly.
Canadian TV would allow them to use the name Schitt's Creek. I remember when people at Pop was going, I don't know if we can use the name Schitt's Creek. I don't know if that's right, but they did, and look at where we ended up. Emmys for everyone.
Yeah. So yeah, so there's a lot going on, a lot of different shows out there, movies coming back. We're past the Oscars. Anything else of note you wanted to share before we sign off?
I've been working ahead. So I'm doing a lot of interviews with people who've been around for a while, if that means anything. I know I have something with somebody from Happy's Place, the Reba McEntire thing.
Okay.
And I have, Peaky Blinders. I have stuff from that. So there are a lot of things that are out there that are in the zeitgeist, and you'll be able to see what they're up to. But when you're working 3 months in advance with some of this stuff, you forget it. And if you know the ending to some of this stuff, you have to shut up anyway. So you don't really say anything. But as Lisa Kudrow says, sloppy and unprofessional, that's what we need to be.
There you go. All right. Well, we appreciate you all listening to this sloppy and unprofessional podcast. Thank you again for listening. We'll be back again next week with another episode of Streamed and Screened.